So in this tutorial, I'm going to share something with you guys that I think is pretty useful as well. And it's in line with this series about learning how to draw complex forms. Now, in the last one, I did how to outline and sculpt smaller forms as a part of a larger form. Now we're going to go into drawing complex forms as well, but this is almost like using a slightly different approach to it. But essentially, you're focusing on capturing that larger form by focusing on the smaller parts of it. Now, in this tutorial, we're going to focus on major and minor planes, the larger planes and the smaller planes. And first of all, what do we mean by a plane? A plane is, in a nutshell, a plane is pretty much a flat surface, just like that. Okay, we're not talking about volume. It is what comprises volume, but when you talk about a plane, you're talking about a flat surface just like that. Now, in terms of what makes volume what it is, there are three major planes. So for example, the best form, basic form we can think of to exemplify this is a block or a cube, right? I just refer to it as a block. Now, a block comprises of three dimensions or three planes. Right now we're seeing three planes. We're seeing this plane, the front plane, a side plane, and we're seeing the top plane. Now, these are three flat surfaces that are perpendicular to each other, right? Now, why is this important? Well, this is important because when you're drawing things, it's good to, just like when you're doing linear perspective, in drawing solid or volumetric forms, you know, things that have three dimensions, that have depth, has mass and volume, they have three major planes. Now, of course, this three-dimensional form right here, it has three pairs of planes. So in other words, there's a front and there's a back, right? There's a right side and there's a left side. There's a top and there's a bottom. So we're seeing this cube or block has 6 planes, but right now only 3 are visible. See? So it's very useful also when you're drawing things to envision that thing as being a part of a volume that has these major planes. So for example, I can think of something like this. Say for example, this has, you know, we're seeing 3 planes here. 1, 2, 3. Of course, when we're drawing organic forms like the human body, for example, you won't necessarily see things as straightforward as this. So for example, it may not appear like this. It may actually appear something like so. See? See, but I'm still envisioning this as this. 3 major planes. See, that's what we're talking about. 3 major planes. So this in itself can also be broken down into a more complex form where it has, you know, many surface forms. But the point is to focus on the 3 dimensions, the major planes of a form. And that's the key thing that we're going to do. So these are the major planes. Now, what are minor planes? Now, say for example, we have something like this, right? Again, you have something like this. Major plane, major plane, major plane. Now, what do we talk about when we're talking about minor planes? Well, let's say we're going to break up this plane into smaller parts, or it has indentations then, if you will. So look, it may look something like this. See that? What I'm doing here is I'm making this simple plane, this top plane, a little more complicated. So then you may have, we're going to break this up into minor planes. So this major plane has been broken up into minor planes. I'm going to break up this plane as well. So it may look something like this. See that? And then even this side, I'm going to break up this plane. So we have 1, 2, 3 major planes. And what I've done now is I've broken up all these major planes into minor planes. See? So now the form looks a little bit more complicated. It's almost like you can imagine this as a paper bag that's kind of crumpled. See? So the thing is, I've started from the basic to the complex. Now imagine if I hadn't seen this and I just saw this as is. The point is, you learn to see this complex form, you simplify it or break it down to this. So it helps you to understand the overall thing that's going on. So in other words, all that's going on here is simplified to this simple plane here. All that's going on in the front is this right here. So for example, let's say all of this side was in shadow. Like that. See? So that means all of this side would be in shadow. But the thing is, because this major plane is now broken up into these minor planes, you would see little distinctions. And each of these inclinations you have here are called or referred to as minor planes. And that has been my approach to explaining this, and it helps me a lot, and it helps the students that I teach a lot. So here we have this plane, this third plane, plane 3, broken up into these minor planes. Same thing with this. This front plane right here is now broken up into these smaller minor planes. See that? So you can end up actually looking, having something that looks nothing like this simple block that we have here. But the point is, this is really and structurally the same as this thing. Okay? So in other words, when you're looking at this, you should still feel like, this is 3, this is 2, and this is 1. You're drawing this complex form, you should still see this as 3, still see this as 2, still see this as 1. And it will really help you a lot to simplify things that you're drawing, because you're seeing all the busyness, all the information that you see here, you're just seeing all of this as belonging to the front. All of this is belonging to the top, and so on. And I'm going to show you an example of how that can be visualized using the figure. Yeah, so in this example, I'm going to draw make a drawing of a figure by Michelangelo again, because he does really wonderful figure drawings. And I'm going to have you see how I would use the same concept in terms of breaking up the major forms, the major planes, of the simple form into, the minor planes. And then as a result of that, you will develop a more complex form. So you're basically comprising a complex form based on simple planes or major planes. Okay? And whenever you're thinking of the major planes, you're just thinking of a basic block, front, back, side, top. Okay? And that's the basic idea. So I'm just going to sketch out the mass here, and I'm going to try to do it a step at a time, so that way you see the thinking that's going on. So say we have a mass that starts out like this. See that? That's the torso. Okay, you're just going to draw a torso, so you see it. So I'm going to keep breaking this up, and you're going to see how I'll derive at the actual complex form. So say we break this up like this. See, so here, this is the first phase of breaking up this first major plane. I've already broken it up into 2 here. See that? All right. And this side plane, I'm going to break it up as well. So let's put a little shadow here so you can get an idea that this is the side plane. All right, so now you see the clear separation. So now I'm going to make this side plane a little bit more complicated. So let's say we have it like this. I'm sure you're already starting to see that separation. See, so that's basically showing how the different planes are broken up. So it's really just imagine this whole thing as just a major block. Side plane, front plane. And even the front plane, just like I have here, I'm breaking this up, the chest. See, here you have, basically, it's going like this. See, it's over and down, over and down. Now, all I have to do now is just go in and start refining this. So essentially, what's going on is this is the major block of the mass. So you have one plane going like this, another plane going like this. See, and all of this is in the side plane, and all that takes place on this side is part of the side plane. See, so this plane is facing in this direction, and this plane is facing in this direction. So I'm not getting caught up too much with all the little minor things that are going on. Yes, within this plane, this is the little border. Yes, there are forms going like so and like so and like so, but overall, they all are part of this larger side plane. And all that's going on, as far as, you know, with here, forms are going over here and going over like that. All of them are still a part of this larger front plane. See, and once you start doing that, just like with the arm, for example, see up here of the bicep, that's one plane, and the other plane starts here, and this is the dividing line. See, so all of this will be in shadow, all right? It's facing downwards, and all of this is in one plane that's facing the light, and that's the basic approach that you have towards it. And once you think of it in that sense, it simplifies the process for you a lot. It makes it a lot easier for you, and you'll see how far it will take you. Now, let's say, for example, I'm going to show you a really quick drawing here of a leg, just a thigh. So basically, all of this is the side plane, okay? And this is the top plane, so it's facing like this. And mind you, the way the thigh is, that this line isn't always definitive. It doesn't always stay the same. This line can actually change, so at some point, this line may actually be here, or be here, depending on the angle of the thigh in respect to the light source, okay, or the angle of the light, what angle the light is coming in from. So based on the position that this leg is and the light source, the angle cuts right here, because when you have a cylinder like this, depending where the light and shadow separates depends on where the light source is. If the light source is closer to this side, then more than likely the light and shadow line is going to be here. If the light is more behind like this, then the light and shadow line may be somewhere here. See? So when it comes to a cylinder, that's why it's good to sometimes simplify forms with a cylinder, because you're not restricting yourself. If it's a block like this, that edge is always that edge. But with a cylinder, it's not fixed, and that's why sometimes it's good to sketch figurative forms with a cylinder and not with a block, because afterwards you can determine where you want to put the light and shadow line, the line that separates the light and shadow. So going back to this example, this is where he actually makes that separation, and you're going to see how I will, this is the major plane, and this is the other major plane, but I'm going to break up this major plane into smaller planes, minor planes, based on the muscle mass, or the divisions of musculature on this side. what you have happening here is this is the top plane of the thigh. Okay, it goes along this line. And here is the side plane of the thigh. It's almost like this. And this, of course, is facing this way. And this is facing up, like so. But what's going on here is that this major side plane of the thigh is now broken up into these smaller planes. See? Right? And here you have, you know, different areas of light and shadow, but mind you, they're all on the shadow side of the thigh. It's almost like this. This is the top side, which is in light up here, and this is the side plane. So these are the two major planes of the thigh, and everything conforms to those two major planes. Same thing like I did here. Everything conforms to these two major planes, this front plane and the side plane of the torso. And it goes back to this basic thing that I mentioned here. You have the major plane at the front and the side plane, and this plane can be broken up into these minor planes. But the key thing is to pay attention to the major planes that dominate the entire forms. And once you do that, you're fine.